ASR. So finalizing the one for October, because we just entered on that month. So actually, let me see if I can do it another way. Do I have those? Interesting. Yeah, anyway, doesn't really matter. Proceed. Let's see, so week 1. Hey guys, morning. Yeah, I'm just doing my weekly ASR actually. So I thought I'd just jump on the live because I've got some time here as well in case you guys had some questions as well. Interesting. Let's have a little look. So yeah, what are you guys looking at for watch list? I've got mine over here, which I can bring up. This is the watch list that I've got. I put a video actually, I put a picture on my, that's not it, is it? I put a picture up on my Instagram of my watch list, but here it is. That's the watch list. I might filter it a bit more. I'll come back and look at it in a new unit of time, but that's basically what I got down to after going over it a few times. And yeah, just pretty happy with that. I mean, is there anything on there that you don't have and wondering why I have it? I can quickly skip through it for someone who is watching this video and can go back. So that's the New Zealand US dollar, Aussie Swiss, Euro Yen, Euro New Zealand, gold, Aussie New Zealand, Aussie US dollar, GBP US dollar, New Zealand yen, Euro Aussie, GBP, Euro GBP, HK50, and UK oil. So UK oil obviously is one which I've put in others, so I always put this other section in there. In fact, gold would go in others as well, but it's more on a watch list for me. So essentially, because it's a correction into a correction, it's likely that this could potentially fail, so I'm going to wait for an insurance entry. HK50, I do like the fact that we've kind of failed to continue there, created continuation, sold through, and now we're going for the next continuation to then potentially play into that. So yeah, just waiting to see how that plays out. Let's have a little look. So doing my weekly ASR, so last month I wasn't trading in October for the first week, second week, third week, and fourth week, but the fifth week I was. So I'm just basically marking those up right now. Euro GBP is in the right position for a short-term move. Love the morning star formation. Let's have a little look. Is that Euro GBP? Yep. Yeah, do you know what's really nice as well with Euro GBP? Is if you look at it on the weekly, it's basically done a really nice washout. So you probably can see that as well, the nice washout. So with that nice washout in place, the next daily candle, like you said, has a nice evening start to it as well, if that's what you were referring to. And then we've got the failed continuation on the 4 hour, and then we go down to the 1 hour, and then we're just basically now creating more continuation to the downside. So yeah, it's beautiful. Really nice price action. Let's have a look. Let me put a screen up on my ASR, and you guys can see what I'm doing there. So yeah, this is basically my personalized made ASR. So obviously for November, I didn't really have anything that I was trading during these periods. So I'm just gonna mark them on as NA, because for these weeks, I didn't have anything. The fifth week I did, So I'm just going to pull that over. So I'll go over to my trading journal, and this was my forecasts this month. Let's go to last, so past month, and that's the forecasts. And then this is the forecast as well. Trading journal right here, and let's go for this whole month. So I did take two live trades actually on October the 17th, but I'm not going to class those in. I'm going to just go from the 27th to the 30th. I only took 5 trades, and it totaled to 1.74% for the week. Not entirely terrible. Definitely there is some placement for it to move. Obviously, without the shadow trade in place, we are looking at it being at 0.85 for the week. Again, remember this is all for testing purposes right now. I'm building a process and a routine for January where I'm really going to go in with heavy live capital. So this is all just for testing purposes. So it doesn't really matter about the numbers in a sense. I mean, they matter in the sense of just getting better and improving, but for basically just moving forward, I'm not really, making much if it's going to be like 10%, 20%. It's just, again, I'm building that process and that routine, which is more important. So I'm just going to put this data into my ASR now. So let me just open that up in a new window. Move tab to new window, split screen, great, and I'll put it in here. So I didn't mark any missed trades this week as well. That was something I was going to do yesterday, but to be honest, as I went through it, there wasn't anything that I could class as a missed trade. I think perhaps maybe from the end of day reports that I did, I basically came to the realization that filtration as well, better filtration would have been something that would have helped me. So going down to the data, yeah, take the time to wait for the candle confirmation. It was a premature entry on that particular day, but I'm going to just slice in the data right now. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at one loss, two losses, and a break even. So I took my true P&L. So 1.74% for the week. for the week. Potential P&L. Again, I would probably leave that one blank for now because I haven't found anything that would have met the way that my processes and routines would have enabled me to take a trade. I think everything that I planned to do, I did do. It's just on two particular days I woke up late, so I missed my London session. Even though there was some news on that day, regardless, I should have woken up early, so there could have been a missed trade on the London session with the lack of preparation. So I will have to look over those two particular days to see, because my potential profit could have been different to zero right now. Old P&L, couldn't really tell. Trades taken, so I took 5 trades. Out of those trades, let's see which ones were high risk. So I'm just going to go back through them. That's not high risk. Okay, so as I thought, yeah, so it's just one high risk trade in my personal. Oh. Yeah, okay, so one high risk trade, and then I think it was, I'm gonna have to add another tab in here, but it's because I've only put high risk and low risk, but then I've got an in-between part where it's like a higher low risk situation. Let me see what you've written there. So I say the trade, but was going into swaps. So my rule said I should not take a trade for 2 hours before swaps, then I left the trade. Interesting, yeah, the Aussie 200 one. Let's have a little look.
do it and whack on you. Get up and make it work. Ain't no way that I'm sitting around. It's now or never, I'm picking it first. Don't tell me that I won't make it, knew that I had this.
It's very strange that music started playing on my phone. That probably came from YouTube. Aussie US 100, Aussie 200. Let's see. 2 hours before swaps. Over here. I don't know. It's a debatable trade. It's not the best trade in the world, to be honest. I think obviously that trade there, fair enough. You know, if you took the sell here, that makes sense because you're basically, you know, taking this as a range. You're basically coming halfway. You've then retested the back end of this. You could probably go to the 15, maybe even refine that further, but even on the 15 minute, then you've got this little bit of price action there, which isn't clearly trading into that low, and there's that little inflection point it's just missed. So you could have even taken it here on the close, set this just above, call it 14 pips, and then into the low, you've got about 2%. And then as it just kind of trickled down, you would have run around about 3, probably had 2% locked in aggressively, and you would have walked away with borderline, call it 2% or just a bit less. And yeah, that would have been the trade really. You would have anticipated potentially for that to go further. On Thursday, let's have a look. This one here, 2 hours before swaps. Yeah, I see what you're looking for. I think, you know what, this is a trade where you stay up till after swaps. That trade comes then over there where it's evening star on that area. You put stop loss above 30 pips. If you're from the UK, you can go to sleep then. You know, you put your stops in a pretty decent protection in case that spikes up a little bit more. Didn't really have much room to do that anyway because like, you kind of had this whole section there coming into that, and then it just kind of went, and then to the low here, yeah, you've got about 2 to 2. If you were a bit more aggressive with the stops and you know, kind of just covered your high, you got 3 to 1 there as well. Which I think if I was staying up, I would have gone for the 3 to 1. If I was going to sleep, I'll take the 2 to 1. Just because I would want that extra protection while I'm going to sleep. Just because I don't want to be tagged out by a few pips or a spike in price action or even spreads for whatever reason, and then wake up and prices really dropped off for like 6 or 7% or 3%, whatever. And then you're kind of just scratching your head like, maybe I should have been, you know, this and that, and you couldn't do anything because you were sleeping. Even with the scaling as well, you know, you would have been in this trade here, price would have been roughly around about here, you would have had break even locked in on that trade. Then you would have probably had this trade here as well equally. And then, yeah, you would have probably put stops just above that. This one would have run, like we said, for roughly around about 2% there. And then this one on top of that would have ran for additional 3. And then you would have had 5% on that trade in total. And you could have been aggressive in that area and locked it out. Or if you wanted to be a bit looser, you could and walk away with 4. But I think the 5% was solid here for that trade plus this trade. If I look at it on hourly, yeah, even on the hour, the same trade was a exact same trade. So it doesn't really matter, you would have made the same risk reward on that as the 15-minute confirmation. Arguably the hourly is a nicer confirmation, but it just complements the 15-minute anyway. So 15-minute would have been that I stayed up late, borderline, it's after swaps now, I'm still taking the trade, and then you took the trade. The 1 hour is, you know, you've kind of waited till a little bit longer, and then you've got the hourly close on top of it. Let me go back to my ASR. Sweet, so yeah, invalid, didn't take any invalid trades, missed trades. Like I said, I'll come back and check that one out. But in terms of how many invalid trades to valid trades I took, it was 100%. It was 100% of trades within my plan, which I'm very, very happy about. And then if I just mark this up here now, so now I'm just gonna fill this in. I made plus. Obviously this is not the best, it's not the best week in the world, but still 1.74% is still pretty good. So I'll just say it's a win for the week. and I'll mark that green. How do you categorize your missed trades and the trades that in the daily watch, or the trades that you could have forecast? So, okay, so this really comes down to your end of day review. So for me, these are the trades that I've taken, right, in the week. So I'd mark them up as the days go on. Then in here, I'll have my forecasts. So I'll just pull back the previous month. Right, these are my forecasts. And then, oh, sorry, this is another document. My bad. I was just looking. Let me just quickly put that back. It's a different document. These are my forecasts. Daily forecast here. So then I'll just put my forecast in there. For example, if I just open one up. And then you can see it here. So I like to put a song choice in there as well. So if I had like an extremely good day, I would want to try to find out everything I did on that day. What did I listen to? I tick off my routines, my goals, just to kind of track everything as much as possible, because if something worked really well, I'd want to know what it was, so then I could potentially replicate that over and over again, because it aided to my flow state. So I'd add song choice in there, then I'll put my London session. If anybody knows me here, I like to separate my forecast for morning and evening. So I'll do a morning forecast preparation between 6:30 a.m. UK to 5 a.m. UK to around about 9 a.m. UK, but for the 7 a.m. open. And yeah, so my forecast would be in here, and then New York session below. Where was the New York session? So then New York session would be here. Over here I had no pairs on watch for the afternoon, so it was just management on my EU trade. So just kind of wanted to show you that for a second, and basically after I've done that, I would then, at the end of the day, ideally what I would do is I would look over the other pairs I had on my watch list. So then I would come back over here, I would come to my watch list, and let's just say I had like EA and GU. So I had GU for London session and then EA for New York session. What I would do at the end of the day, or at the end of the session, because I do an end of session reviews, I would go over my other pairs and see if I forecasted something. If something went, and what did I do wrong, or not what I did wrong, but what could I have done better? And then I can kind of just find small little tweaks, and then at the end of the week, I can then come and do this ASR and put them together and then take those lessons into the next week. So that's basically how I approach my missed trades. So categorize your missed trades. Wait, hold on, let me just read this question one more time. How do you categorize your missed trades? Missed trade. They trades that are in the daily watch, or trades that you could have forecasted before? Yeah, so it's both. It is both of that. So like I said, it's, for example, let's say I forecasted the insurance entry here, right? And for example, when price came here, it just dropped off. Or it didn't even give me the insurance entry, just continued. And then I would look back on that and be like, oh wait, hang on a second, there was a 1, 2, 3. So why did I not opt in for the risk entry? So then I have to ask myself and look at my trading plan, which I've got up there. Is that a missed trade? And then if the answer is yes, then I log it. If it's not, then I still log it, but I don't class it as a missed trade, I just class it as data collected. So then when I go into my trading journal, which I'll show you again, let me just open up another tab. So when I go into my trading journal, I've got over here, you can see I've got these different sections. I've got data collection, missed trades, live trading, shadow. Sometimes I'll see a trade that I want to take, but I don't want to take it, so I'll shadow it. and it'll be a shadow trade. Sometimes I'll see a trade and, like I said, if it's a mistrade, it's a mistrade, live trade, but then data collection. If it's not in my trading plan, but I'd like to collect the data for something in the future that I don't really need to understand right now, but it seems very interesting, I'll just collect the data anyway, just so then I have more data collected over time. And that's kind of it, really. So let's go back to this. And yeah, so I'm just going to fill in some notes on this. So I'm going to go over my trading sessions for the week. And I'm just going to read through the trading sessions. So usually at the end of it, I have an end of day report in here. And in the end of day report, I kind of just summarize the lessons and takeaways and what needs improvement. So then I can put that together. So I've got, and I'm just going to summarize them and then write them up later. So I've got over here. To take my time with. Sometimes I do kind of write in a bit of code. When I say code, I could write like 1 hour and then 1 hour, which will basically mean to me, take a 1 hour confirmation on a 1 hour structure. But if you just saw that, it would look like random letters. Another one was had to wake up earlier. 2 days I woke up a bit late. Don't get me wrong, it's not the usual thing that I do, but I was a little bit unwell the week before and it was kind of dragging on. So I think I was lacking a bit of sleep. Maybe my body just didn't respond to my alarms. It's not a usual thing, I think, just because I wasn't unwell. So hopefully going into the next week ahead, I won't have that issue. Look for an extended, okay. Back out. So another point that I faced was, so when I went through my data, I realized from my missed trades for the past 3 months that I had an issue with looking for perfection. So map out the second point of interest, not only first. So what it was usually because I looked to take a trade going into the session, what I found out was that sometimes I would map out let's say a value area, and going into the session, I'll be waiting for price to confirm. Something a bit like this. Actually, I've got an example right here where I took the lesson. Oh no, it's not on here. It's on GA. I'm going to go on GA and show you a perfect example. Oh no, it wasn't GA, I think it was EC. You don't know what pair it was. But anyway, I'll just draw it out for you. So essentially, let's say you've got price coming down like this, and let's just say that's on the 15 minute for whatever reason, right? And let's say that's correcting, and we'll argue New York session is there. So what would happen was, I would then see price stalling, price is coming, it's not quite there yet, and then price gets there. And then what happens is I would mark on this area, because that makes a lot of sense, to look for price to come up here, to sell, and get the entry here. But sometimes price would push up and tap into the next point there, and then reject from this section here. I would essentially start to not really, I would think the trade's not really the trade that I think it is, so I would start writing it off in those areas when it started breaking above, and then I would neglect the area here, and then price would respond from it, still within the same hourly session candle, and then it's kind of come back down into the area where I'm still looking at taking price. But then what would happen is price would just continue flowing down and not give an entry, where in reality I could have potentially anticipated this point as well. It's just I didn't price it into my forecast. So because I didn't price it into my forecast, the preparation wasn't there. And the lack of preparation caused me to totally miss that trade. And that was one of the things that I came to a conclusion of in that week. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you because hopefully that was useful. Yeah, definitely. I will start breaking down some pairs very shortly. I'm just finishing my ASR, but I thought I'll pull up the ASR as well while I do it. So there might be something there for some people to take away. And then I had time. Eliminate distractions. So as you know, I like to pretty much be prepared for each session, and I might be prepared for the session, but when the session opens, sometimes in the moment I might get distracted with something else because I might have been doing something previously, or going into the session I might have just missed the trade, and I would like kind of divert my attention to something else, and then I'd come back and look at it later, and the trade's already playing out from another area of interest, which kind of goes into map the second point of interest trade out. So I didn't mark those up as missed trades because to me they weren't a missed trade, they were just things that I need to improve on. And by improving on it, it's not even that I'll catch the trade, it's just that I will also be aware of that being a trade. Where I think sometimes, you know, not getting the trade is one thing, but also being aware of why you didn't get the trade is another thing. But then also, which is really funny, being aware that you didn't get the trade and then not getting the trade, but understanding why the trade played out before the trade even played out. Now I know that sounds very complicated, but it's kind of just like being really good at forecasting so you know why things are happening around. So there was another one, so this day was pretty good actually. It was the one with the New Zealand CAD trade over there. After I kind of reviewed that with Mark, he also told me that it was nothing really wrong with it. So I'm not going to dig into it too much. I'm just going to trust his expertise on that one. Going to the next one over here. So interesting sessions, build the string forecast. Okay, yep. So did I put that in there? No, I'll add it in here. Spend. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna spend more time. So when I finish my forecast, I'm gonna try go through it one more time and go over my forecast again just to make sure 100% I'm happy with it. Because sometimes I think what's happening is it can be a little bit rushed, but not noticing that my forecast is being rushed. So what could happen is I will do my morning forecast and I'll be like, okay, no, I'm set for the day now. But then I didn't spend enough time, kind of like when you do a test. And there's two types of people who do tests. There's the type of person that does his test and he finishes it and he hands it in. Then there's the second type of person who does his test, but then he goes over it one more time because he knows he has a bit of time, he can check it, he's checked it, he's proofread it, he's spell corrected it, and then he's handed it in. I think I'm the first person who's not proof checking it and all of that, so I need to get into the routine of just making sure that after I've done my little work in the morning, I'm going back and proof checking it and just making sure, not for spell corrections, but for technical variations, and ensuring that I've mapped out my technical variations so that if something does pop up, I can deal with it. I missed a trade on New Zealand yen. I'll get to that in a second. I'm just going to go through the last one here. So over here, we scroll down. Wake up earlier. Okay, yeah. Feel better. Wake up earlier. Plan better. Yep. Okay. Cool. I'm going to summarize that shortly anyway. But anyway, for this month, it's roughly around about a 1 point, because I only traded 1 month here because I was doing a lot of work during this period. So it's 1.74% for November. Just not bad. I mean, you know, a lot of people would probably consider me being a little bit crazy for only trading with 0.25 as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was trading with 1%, but going into January, I will stick with 0.25% and just build my capital up with that. I don't see it necessary, really and truly. I have the ability to make a lot more for sure, but I'm not in a rush and I'm not trying to make like 3, 4, 500,000 in like 3 months. You know, I think that's a bit ridiculous. And at that point there, it's kind of like, what are you going to do with 300,000, 400,000 pounds in 3 months? You can make that 300,000, 400,000 pounds a lot more sustainably and a lot more in a much less emotional environment in 6 months, but you've done it with a much better strategic way. Hopefully it still works. Yep, and you can just copy and duplicate this one, where it's essentially like this. You open it and then it has your pair, your entry date, your grade, your management, your P&L, and then if you want to put whatever, you can just add it in there, and that's it. Just look, you know, it obviously as time goes on, you're going to want to change it, add, you know, things in it, change it, but as a basic template, it's there if you need it. Let's just go back now. So yeah, in terms of shadow trades, the way I do it, as I explained before, it's quite simple. I have the exact same thing I just showed you, but then in here, I'll just put a new section, it says type, and then in type, I'll just put what it was. So then for me, later on, I can click on this filter button, and then I can decide, what do I want to look for? Well, I want to only see shadow trades, so then I can see it there. Obviously, I'm filtering from here. If I remove this, and I put, let's say, 2021, and now I go here and just put type shadow trades only, or date collection. I think it's not filtering it properly, but anyway, from there, it will basically show me. I mean, I have another trading journal as well, one I was using before this, which I think was a lot more effective as well. I'll show you my old trading journal. Where is it? Day trading. This is the more complicated version of my journal that I have. So you can see here, for example, if I open up this trade here, you'll see that I have a lot more data in there. And then I have the screenshots, and then I'll put emotions before, during, and after thoughts. Obviously, in this one I haven't filled it in, but it would